This is going to be a little bit of an odd ramble because it's a twofold purpose. One, I wanted to announce and promote. I've got a new short story coming out in an anthology from Riverdale Avenue Books. Uh, the story is called How the Sunday Woman Sang, and it will be published in their new anthology, the Lizzie Borden House Anthology, which is the first official anthology of Lizzie Borden stories put together with the approval of the Lizzie Borden House itself in Fall River, Massachusetts. Currently, there is a Kickstarter going on to raise funds to have a nice little launch party, and you can get all kinds of fun little goodies if you are uh, supporting it, and it also helps the authors like myself get a little bit of extra money for it. I think it's about halfway, little under halfway, last that I checked, funded, and that will be going on until August 19th. So you can pledge um, on Kickstarter. You can get an early ebook. You can get a print book. There's also a deluxe hardcover edition. There's a bunch of other fun things. But I thought it would be fun. I've never done something like this before. To talk a little bit about the behind the scenes of the story and the writing process of it just a little bit. Because this one was an odd one. It was a story that I wrote to a call for uh, an anthology submission for this specific anthology. And in the past, I've tried writing stories for a specific anthology, and it's never worked out. Usually it's I run out of time and I don't meet the deadline, and rather than submit something that's half finished, I just kind of put it to the side and keep working on it for a different anthology. I've had a couple of stories that were aimed for one anthology that wound up in a different anthology or a different magazine publication. It took me a minute to kind of think about what would be a different way of presenting Lizzie Borden, which is probably one of the most famous American murder cases of all time. I wanted to present a version of Lizzie that was not, the whole thrust of it would not be whether or not she killed her father and stepmother. The focus that I wanted to bring to this was looking at Lizzie as this Victorian spinster, as someone who was limited in what they were able to do in their life because of the social class that they were in. So I began to read all the biographies of Lizzie that I could get my hands on. I work in a public library. It is very easy for me to get multiple biographies of someone who has been written about as much as Lizzie Borden. And one of the things that I was looking for as I read through these biographies was the places where biographers and newspaper accounts and family accounts start to diverge from each other, and the way that they interpret behavior differently. So, for example, a sympathetic biographer of Lizzie would say that one of the reasons that she was so kind of distant and confused during the trial was that she was being given morphine and that she was distraught over the death of her father, um, and the violence with which her stepmother was killed, even though she didn't particularly care for her stepmother. And then a less sympathetic biographer would say, well, of course she was confused because she was trying to keep her lies straight, and she kept feeling that she was going to be found out at any moment. In my story, How the Sunday Woman Sang, which is taking place in Lizzie's mind while she's in a jail cell, I wanted to work through a day where she has been given morphine and she is having increasing difficulty as the day progresses, remembering what has happened in the past, what she's doing currently. She doesn't always fully understand. She's been sleeping and having these recurring dreams about like women in the town judging her, women that she went to church with acting as their own judge and jury, uh, looking at her and judging her and speculating about whether or not she killed Mr. and Mrs. Borden, not being certain where her sister was on the day of the murder, not being certain where the doctor is and if he has given her medicine yet, or if she's due to have her medicine, and trying to piece together the events leading up to the murder. One of the things that I saw in two or three of the biographies was that they talked about her being, before the murders, she was a Sunday school teacher, and specifically that she taught a Sunday school for the Chinese immigrants who lived in Fall River. And this intrigued me because I remembered, from my history classes, stories about the kind of general xenophobia in America in the 1800s, and this anxiety toward Chinese people, or people of Asian descent in general. And then also remembering that there were rumors about that someone who was Portuguese was a suspect in the murders. And I began looking around, and I saw and made a note in my diary that the year that the murders happened was also the same year that the first quote unquote comprehensive English Chinese dictionary was published in England. And so, thanks to the wonders of modern internet scholarship and knowing how databases work, I thought, oh, well, I bet you someone has scanned that in. And I did find a scan in of it online. So I started kind of searching through for keywords that would come up in the murder, like hatchet, murder, parent, mourning, death, that kind of thing. And I saw one of the definitions in the English Chinese dictionary was sang, which is to mourn as in the death of a parent. This was to me something that kind of gave me the germ of the story. This idea of doing a kind of lyrical stream of consciousness, slipping through her memory as she's mourning. She's also kind of composing this sermon a little bit in the back of her head, this lesson for the Sunday school for the Chinese immigrants, which she will never teach because she's in jail currently. And then after that, she faces a life either of being ostracized or being executed for the murder. So that was how those pieces kind of came together. And I wrote the story relatively quickly, but the editing of it, piecing it together, that took longer than getting the bones of it together. And I'm now very happy to say that it was accepted for the anthology and will be available coming out this fall. I believe October is when it's going to be coming out, but it may be early November. And it will be available in both ebook and print editions. So thank you very much for listening to the background of this. I hope that this has been at least mildly interesting for everyone, and I hope that you all will get a copy of the anthology and enjoy the new story, How the Sunday Woman Sang, which is available in the Lizzie Borden House Anthology through Riverdale Avenue Books. Thank you, and have a very good day. Bye-bye.